This is Jodi. I am doing an interview today for Real Progress in Action. I have two Michigan residents who actually noticed some interesting things as the results were coming in from the Michigan primary. So I'd like to introduce Elayne. Elayne, can you introduce yourself a little bit?
Sure. Hi. So my name is Elayne Petrucci. I'm a former teacher and current business owner, and I was a 2016 Sanders delegate and a lead organizer for Metro Detroit for Bernie and Downriver for Bernie.
Great. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
We also have Katy here today. Katy, can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes. Hi, my name's Katy Beebe. I am a resident of Port Huron. I've been a Bernie volunteer from 2016 and then again this time around.
Great. Thank you for being here. We are specifically here to talk about some interesting abnormalities that were noticed during the Michigan primary as the results were coming in. Of course, people were paying close attention, and definitely a lot of Bernie supporters. I know I was hitting refresh every couple of minutes there. What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Luckily, however, Katy was able to catch something that was really, really odd. Katy, could you tell us about what exactly was strange as you were watching the results come in?
Well, as the results were coming in, I captured a screenshot at 10:07 p.m. that apparently has been shared pretty widely, showing Bernie Sanders with around 700,000 votes. I captured that screenshot, sent it to my St. Clair County Bernie volunteer chat group, and by the time I'd closed out that chat group and saw the results again, those votes had been taken away. So then I captured the second screenshot, wondering what was going on, what had happened to the votes.
Absolutely. So we actually, as we see it, it was originally at 10:07 that Bernie Sanders had 728,097 votes, and he was at 52.86%. And Biden at that point was at 572,241 votes with 41.54% of the vote. And then 10:09, at 10:09, just 2 minutes later, very interestingly, suddenly Bernie had 425,000 votes, roughly, with 39.54% of the vote, and Biden had 572,645 with 53.28% of the vote. Now, some very interesting things that I noticed just in looking about this, if it was just kind of, okay, the numbers were mixed up, or, they had labeled something incorrectly or something like that, that would be one thing. Maybe you would be able to see an exact switch, but what happened here was Sanders went well below. He went down by 300,000, roughly 300,000 votes, and Biden's remained about the same. And then also, of course, there were other basically establishment candidates that gained from this, which was very interesting. Elayne, I'd like to bring you into this conversation. And so kind of how did you pick up on this? You were actually the person who reached out to Real Progress in Action. Thank you so much. I know you're a live streamer for us. So how did you come by this information, and kind of what are your impressions from this?
Okay, so I want to kind of go back just a little bit, give a little background. So as I said, I was a 2016 delegate. And Bernie Sanders in 2016 took Michigan. No one thought he would do that. The morning of, he was down by 22 points, okay? And it said it caught the establishment completely off guard. We on the ground weren't surprised, right? We said, we feel it. People are feeling the burn. We had parades, we had marches, we had a 10-foot processional puppet that went around and people went nuts. We knew the reaction. We knew that people really wanted him, all right? So it didn't surprise us, okay? But then we started seeing, and of course there were things before that. Sanders being denied the van for a few days, which is the voter information that all the candidates got, people being thrown off the rolls, in New York and Brooklyn, where he was going to do good. I mean, there are all kinds of stories coming out, right? But he took Michigan. We went to the convention. We were still kind of hopeful maybe we could change minds. I don't know. We were very, very excited. But also we had heard about this election integrity group, a watchdog group that had been posting that there was fraud, that they had evidence of fraud. So we invited them, my very good friend Linka invited them to talk to the delegates. And they were a little bit reluctant. They didn't really want to release their information unless they were sure they could pretty much trust us, but they did. And they laid it out. And they showed us how the results of the voting machines in every large precinct, the results of those were 1 in 77 billion. Statistically impossible. Voting machines are made to have what's called fractional voting. Maybe you get, depends on what it is. Maybe you get 0.9, I get 1.1. It's set up like that for like when they do voting in counties, okay? So your vote does weigh a little more. So it's made to do that. But it's untraceable and it takes about a minute, okay? So what happened was, as the night went on, with the law of averages, it's supposed to stay, pretty steady. And the more people that vote, it goes like this. But in every large precinct, Clinton's did this and Sanders did this, but only with the voting machines, these particular voting machines, but they were in every large precinct. We're like, oh my God. So they gave us a summary of the 100-page report, very detailed report. We handed it out to all the news organizations. There were about 4 of us that they handed us this 10-page summary to. We handed it out. Who did a report on it? Lee Camp did a report on it, and we didn't see it go anywhere else, okay? So we knew what happened. Fast forward. We know that Michigan's the big prize, right? We know that it's all the talk. If Bernie Sanders can get Michigan, that's it. His momentum's built back up, all right? So we had a feeling, and I'm sure that's where Katy came in and felt the need, to do the screenshots. Yay, Katy. To do some research. We were looking out for it, all right? Now, I was at the polling stations that morning and handing out literature to people. And when I tell you that the momentum was still with Sanders, all this talk of Biden being up by, it was 30 points that morning, okay? We go out and I'm at the polling stations and I'm doing my very, very, very informal polling. And I happen to have some really great literature that somebody had made up. So I was actually going to several different polling stations and giving it to the different volunteers that were talking to people as they were coming in to vote. But I'm getting a read on it with my very informal. And people ask me, Elayne, how you feeling about it? And I'm like, we're going to do this. At the one station, I'm like, conservative, I'd say, conservative estimates, I'd say Bernie, at least at 70%. So we're thinking he's doing really, really well. Fast forward, the end of the night, I go to the campaign party, okay? And there is Jen from Status Quo. And she asked if, they talked to me before, and so they wanted to do like a little brief interview, and like, Bernie's up, and I'd heard Bernie was up, right? I'm going, yeah, Bernie's up. And then she checks the numbers again from Jordan Sheraton. She's like, wait a minute, he's down. I'm like, how's that possible? With like 12% reporting, he was at like 52 to 48. I'm like, and that made sense. All of a sudden, Biden's losing, and that is about 10 o'clock when Katy took that screenshot. So it's happening again. It's happening again. Now you hear about the voter, the exit polls. In some instances, it's like 17% off. If it's 4% in other countries, you do a recount because it's evidence of fraud, okay? Here in the United States, I have a good friend that lives in Australia. He said when they do the voting, when they have elections, all the parties get together at the end of the night, they read the totals, they verify things, and they don't report until all sides agree that that's the correct number. We don't do that. Why don't we do that? Because the ones in charge are the ones who are rigging it.
Well, unfortunately, I have to agree, and that's pretty sad. Yeah, that's interesting. I was going to bring up, I actually just watched listened to an interview that Lee Camp had done about talking about the primaries and how things are working right now. What's really interesting is that everything goes through this kind of black box machines, you know, that we did proprietary technology, things that, you know, we don't get to, we aren't privy to the mechanisms by which our vote in our democracy is tabulated. It's pretty crazy. Are you guys familiar with the voting machines and kind of the issues inherent in that?
Yes, I mean that's what I'm saying. They're hackable,
Mm-hmm.
and they're untraceable. Is the big thing. If you change that fractional vote, you can't tell you did it. Right. You have to, like, I don't even know. I watched a program on it. It's untraceable. You can't tell that it was being done. So, I mean, and of course we all want paper ballots. And what's amazing too is they changed so many of those caucus states to primaries. Why? Obviously, with caucuses, it's actually much more difficult to rig it because it's out in the open. You know, we see the coin flip of that one guy who's rubbing the coin to decide whether the vote goes. I'm like, oh my God! But it's right there. It's in camera. It's in the open. You know, you're cheating. I'm watching you cheat. Of course, you know, nothing is really done, but at least it holds them a lot more accountable. Voting machines, there's no accountability. You know, did you see in 2016, there was a woman, I don't know, in one of the Chicago precincts, she went before court. And she'd been speaking in court about how the election official there made her change the hand-counted votes. They had to verify. You had to match, it was nuts. You had to match the hand-counted votes to the machine. And if they didn't, you redid it or whatever. But they made her, and there's a film of her in court saying that the official made her erase the hand counted number to match the machine, which was, of course, in favor of Clinton. So it went across the board. And even when they verified, but what recourse do we have?
Right. Well, you're absolutely right. And I think it's interesting that most of the time when people talk about, you know, improving our election security and improving the integrity of our elections, what they want to do is buy newer machines. No, it's another machine.
No. It might take a little longer, but, you know, but again, there's no motivation. There's a recording. I don't know if you ever heard this. My friend Linka had actually found this. There's a recording of Hillary Clinton. I think it was 2012, talking about an election in Palestine and how they should have made sure that this particular candidate won. Does it sound like she might be, I don't know, used to doing that?
Yeah, it's very interesting as well. What I've noticed, and I'm one of those people who likes to follow everything, you know, and keep up and all this kind of stuff. We don't seem to ever get to 100% reporting in any of the states that Bernie won.
Bernie won. No, we're still working on that. You know, we just can't give them these delegates just yet. Right.
Yet, when you hear the mainstream media, I mean, the narrative is that Biden is so far ahead and all these kind of things, yet the amount of delegates that are still unassigned would easily make up for most of the difference, if not more than the difference between the two candidates. Very, very interesting. So let me just ask a question, kind of to back up a little bit and kind of give give people an idea of what that enthusiasm was like in Michigan. So I know that you both, volunteered with the Bernie campaign. And so I'm wondering, were you guys talking to average voters on a regular basis, and kind of what was your feel for you know, the enthusiasm of Bernie or the enthusiasm of Biden, or, you know, what was the feedback that you got from people?
I canvassed. I went door to door. We had, and just talking to that too, the day of the election, you know, as I said, I went to several, you know, I think at least 4 different polling stations. Okay. There were 3, one big polling station, Northwest Detroit. There were 4 of us. You know, we're like, we got enough people, go to another one. Signs, literature, people talking about Bernie, positive. Oh yeah. Interestingly, one African-American man came up to me and I'm like, my spiel was, only Bernie beats Trump, you know, and I handed a piece of literature, right? And he goes, and I started to say, only. He goes, hang on. Who are you pushing for? And I said, Bernie. All right, Bernie. He's like, you know what? He goes, you know what? Whoever the establishment tells us to vote for, we should vote for the other guy. I'm like, oh my God, please talk to people. Yes, yes, yes. But the point was, there were so many of us volunteers, enthusiastic, Bernie, Bernie shirts, Bernie gears. We're bringing our, our yard signs to all these polling stations. Oh, there's already a Bernie sign. We're the Biden people. Not one. Not one. Anywhere. So who had the enthusiasm? Yeah, so it didn't surprise me. So I'm hearing that Bernie's up in Michigan. Like I said, all day I'm hearing it. And I'm seeing it. And I'm reporting back, oh yeah. I think he's going to get this. I think he's going to get this. And then, bam. It was like a smack in the face. What? That doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. So yeah, logically, just on the ground game, what we saw, what we heard, the enthusiasm, 100% was Bernie. No one was excited about voting for Biden.
Katy, if I could ask you, I'm curious. I know, in the same way that Elayne you had volunteered with the Bernie campaign, and just curious, what was kind of your impression, and what were the major issues that you heard back from people that they were concerned about in Michigan?
Well, I can only speak for St. Clair County,
Okay.
but as a whole, the vast majority of the people that we talked to, we actually only encountered vastly Bernie Sanders supporters and Trump supporters. We didn't, as far as I'm aware of, encounter any Biden supporters, yet he still won our county. We don't understand that at all. But when it comes to the issues, climate change was a big one here. We are right on the lake, so that makes complete sense. And then, of course, healthcare. And especially now with this virus going around, it's even a bigger deal.
So there was one thing that actually I think we kind of didn't talk about, but I'd love to touch on, and it was included in the results. So it was included, Katy, in your screenshot. What was interesting was, while the numbers didn't change very much for the rest of the candidates, the actual vote numbers, the percentages did. And I'm trying to wrap my head around exactly how that would happen. So for example, it was Elizabeth Warren had like 11,170, I believe, or 710, and that went from 11,717, yet her percentage of the vote doubled. And that happened with a lot of the candidates who were down a little bit further. So we have this screenshot on it. We had, it was, let me see, Bernie's and Biden's swapped, and then it was, let me see, Michael Bloomberg, who his percentage doubled. Elizabeth Warren, her percentage doubled. Let me see, Pete Buttigieg, his percentage doubled, and uncommitted, their percentage doubled. And so I'm curious how you guys think that would have worked into things. So how do you think that necessarily, how would that happen if they had the same, if they had the same votes, if they weren't getting any more votes, and all of the votes were going to either Biden or Bernie? How do you think that could have happened?
I mean, frankly, I don't know what happened. I took the screenshots. I'm just your average citizen who's a Bernie supporter, and I captured the image, which now seems to be going somewhat viral. And to be frank, I don't know what to say about the images other than something is not right, and obviously things do not add up. If it was just a reporting error, why would we not have somebody informing us of this? If it was just simply that, you would think they would say it was a reporting error, and that would end any issue, for the most part, at least.
I think you're absolutely right. And it's really interesting, before we did this interview, I'm trying to do my due diligence and see, is there an explanation out there for this? And what is the story that would be coming from, specifically these were the real results as they were coming into BuzzFeed. would there be someone from BuzzFeed saying, hey, this is what happened here? And I couldn't find anything. So I don't know if anybody else has had better luck, but I literally, I couldn't even find an article on it. I mean, do you guys know of anyone, is anyone talking about this?
Well, I mean, it's going viral. It's going viral among the Bernie groups, and we're not surprised. That's the whole thing. We're really not, especially with the weight and the significance and the momentum building up to Michigan. The line was he beat Clinton in 2016 in this large, huge, the greatest polling error in modern history. All of this stuff, and it would have really, the talk amongst everything mainstream media, independent media, was if he wins Michigan, this will reignite his campaign and really move the momentum forward. So they were scrambling. They were doing everything. And this is just, and they even did it in the open, in plain sight, as they say. Here it is. Here are the numbers. Oh, we're going to change them right there. What do we do? What do we do? And they know, we can't do anything about it. I don't know, made a mistake. No explanation, nothing. No talk, nothing. But what do we do?
Well, yeah. Unfortunately, there doesn't seem to be much recourse or much effective recourse. Katy, have a lot of people been reaching out to you about the screenshot? I know, obviously it's that you had taken the screenshot. Do you have a lot of people reached out to you to find out, any newspapers who want to do an article on it, or anything like that, or have you gotten a lot of interest?
Actually, no, I haven't. But if you see what is being passed around right now, it's not associated with me really at all. I may have taken the original screenshots, but I didn't post them even on my own page until after seeing my sister post them on her page from somebody else's Facebook page. And I'm like, oh, well, those are my screenshots. And I wasn't aware that they were going around at all to the extent that they are until I saw her do that. So Elayne reached out to me. It was Nicole Reed, the St. Clair County Bernie volunteer leader, that started tagging me in certain posts with my screenshots. So, that she could credit me or let me know that, hey, these are your screenshots and they're going around everywhere. But for anybody reaching out to me, no. Did I send them to the campaign? Of course I did, but have I received a response? No.
So I'm curious how you guys feel about what you think the response should be from Bernie or from the campaign. Yeah, I guess that essentially that's the question. What do you think? What would you hope the response from Bernie's campaign would be? And let's start with Katy.
Well, I guess I would like to hear a response from the Sanders campaign calling out any election fraud that we are seeing, or if they do not feel that it is election fraud, if they don't feel that it is voter suppression or that they're flipping votes, well, what is going on? What is happening? What is your response? What are you going to do? We are on the ground. We have put in hours. Some of us, I know, like I said, the leader of the St. Clair group has barely seen her kids with all the time that she has been putting in this past month to help get Bernie elected. So the response I want basically to hear is that he's going to go after this himself, or an explanation as to what is really going on. What are we seeing? We're obviously seeing like the 300,000 votes that just seem to disappear. What is it? We need to know. We need an answer. We deserve an answer, even if it was simply a reporting error.
Yep, definitely. And I think silence is so much worse. Not saying anything about it. I mean, even if you were to say, I'm not sure what happened here, but I'm looking into it, and our campaign is looking into it. One thing that I thought was interesting, and I do think that perhaps Bernie's campaign the media does not have a good response to a lot of things that Bernie says, and I think, unfortunately, that may be part of it. In that, they would want to be confident in knowing exactly what happened before they said something, because that the mainstream media is going to crucify them, whatever they say. Oh, you're just making things up. Oh, you're paranoid. Oh, blah, blah. Oh, the Bernie Bros. Blah blah blah. This kind of narrative. So I think I can understand why they would strategically wait until they said something. I think the thing is that something needs to be said. Something needs to be said, because otherwise people just feel like, oh, nobody's doing anything about it and things like that. Elayne, what do you think should be the response from the Bernie campaign? What would you hope would be?
Okay. So several things on this. Bernie can't do it. Bernie cannot, because a couple different things, many different things. Number one, if he would have spoken up in 2016 and done something, he wouldn't be able to be running right now. Okay, because he would have spoken against it, he wouldn't be able to run as a Democrat, a two-party system. Okay, so he wouldn't have been able to run. Number two, he doesn't want to make people believe, and I read this, I don't know, but from staffers, okay, is that he doesn't want people to believe that their vote doesn't matter. He wants people to have faith in the system, okay? So what happens? Everybody else can say something. This is up to us, okay? He personally cannot, for the multitude of reasons, okay? But we can, and his staffers can kind of do things too, anonymously, they can work, make phone calls, whatever, but he cannot. And I totally 100% believe that. I can't even tell you how many people I've spoken to that said, why should I vote? My vote doesn't matter. Why should I vote? My vote doesn't matter. There was election fraud. They decided anyway, which they do, but thank goodness we have people like Katy catching those screenshots. So at least we have evidence, right? Okay, and so again, he can't, but we can, and we should, and we need to be very vocal.
Well, I want to thank you both for being on the show and for doing this interview with me, and everything. Katy, for doing the screenshots. I mean, it's really interesting. We talk about being behind a keyboard and things like that, and of course we want to be more active, but I think that there is still a lot that you can do behind a keyboard. Looking at your phone.
Definitely is. Yes.
Yeah, let's think about what the impact this is of just being vigilant and paying attention and reporting on these things. I mean, that's very, very important, and I appreciate you guys coming on here and sharing it with us and with our audience. And I hope that we can really wake people up to what's going on. I think a lot of people kind of have a sense of something's not right here, but it's very difficult to show that unless you can actually show some piece of evidence. So kudos to you for actually getting some type of evidence that, hey, this is really, really screwed up.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, thank you, Katy. That's just like, that's awesome. It's awesome. It's awesome. Right there.
I simply can't believe that I'm the only one who captured a screenshot or saw this. There's got to be somebody else.
I mean, it's amazing too that it's literally it's 2 minutes, because when it comes down to it, to have been able to catch that in that tiny amount of time, to be able to say this is what it was 1 minute, and literally 2 minutes later, this is what it's been. It's incredibly rare that someone would be paying that close attention. You know what I mean? In order to be able to catch that. So that it's just amazing. It's almost kind of a miracle that you got it. I want to say thank you to you for sharing that with us, and then also thank you to Elayne. Appreciate having you here, and appreciate you reaching out to us, and also kind of your definitely your insight on what kind of has been going on and paying attention over the last 4 years. And yeah, I definitely appreciate that. I learn more about it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I appreciate you sharing that with us.
Oh, absolutely. It was great. Thank you. Yeah, we got to get it. We got to get this out as much as possible, everybody, and then hand them vests.
Definitely. See, that's why my room is so yellow, and because I'm just ready for the yellow vest movement. See,
there you go. There you go. You're all set.
All right.